How well does Judkins and Sampson fit what Kevin Stefanski wants to do?
Well, for me, they kind of so Chubb was really good at everything, but Judkins is a guy who I always say plays with his hair on fire every time he touches the ball. So you're going to see him. He doesn't waste a lot of time, right? So if you look at the gap schemes and that's what I showed with Judkins, where you're blocking down on one side and you're bringing a guard and somebody else from the other side, but it's downhill and it's right now. And I think Judkins does that very well. He also runs zone very well, but zone takes a little bit more patient, and Sampson comes from that he's very patient when you see him. If you remember Le'Veon Bell from the Steelers, very patient, understanding the blocking schemes. He's very offensive line friendly in terms of he knows what they have to block, and he's going to wait for them to get their block. So they both have great speed. They both can break tackles, so they're more similar than they are different. They have a little different style with schemes, right? And they can both run all the schemes. But Judkins is going to give you that, that bull in the china shop where he's downhill right now, and Sampson's going to be patient, then explode. And I think them being fresh, and then you throw in Ford on third down, and Pierre Strong if somebody gets banged up or something, they're not going to lose a lot, and they're going to use four guys as one. And that's really what I'm going into the season thinking. They're not going to replace Nick Chubb, but they got four guys that they're going to try to replace Nick Chubb and try to all do it at once.
So we know that they're going to use Sampson a little bit in the slot because he's been working there with Chad O'Shea, wide receivers coach. Can you see them doing two backs at all? We used to call for that like crazy with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. Can you see Sampson and Judkins, or even Ford and Judkins in a two-back set?
Well, if you look at what said earlier, so yeah, I can, because they both have similar skill set. But here's what I see: I see them being able to be interchangeable parts. And in the NFL, these guys are so big and violent that you can't overload these guys. The days of 30 carries in a game they're not happening very much because of the size of these defenders. But what Kevin Stefanski likes to do, it kind of ties in with the Judkins. So you got Judkins, you got Sampson, and then you got Harold Fannin. Right? And what that does is he's a matchup guy. So if he puts in 12 personnel and that defense wants to play all linebackers, now you can use Sampson and Judkins, especially Sampson, because he's really good out of the backfield. But now you can use these running backs out at receiver. You can use the two tight ends, Njoku and Fannin, out at receiver, and get them matched up with what you want, right? Linebackers and safeties. And then if they try to put the corners on those guys, then who's covering Judy, right? Who's covering Tillman? So that's what Kevin Stefanski does very well. So yes, I can see both of these guys playing because they both catch it well. They can play in the slot. But what I really see is when Kevin Stefanski likes to get in that 12 personnel and find the matchups he wants. If he's at third and medium, you can run the ball, you can throw the ball, and you dictate what that defense does as long as you can win on early downs, and that defense has to play base.